Hello everyone, my name is Ivo and welcome to Cooking with the Koyas. So you want to make sourdough bread, but it's too complicated, it takes too long, there's too many steps. Not anymore, there's not. I'm going to show you a way to make sourdough bread which is simple, easy, fast. Anyone can do it. So if you have sourdough starter, you're going to love this recipe because it's one that I developed myself over time. And I'm going to show you all about it, and it's like I say, it's really easy and it makes a phenomenal bread. So first of all, we start with flour. We need 400 grams of flour. Now on today's episode I'm going to make 2 loaves of bread, okay, 2 different loaves just to show a variation in the breads. So I need 400 grams of flour for each loaf. Now I'm going to use white flour, and the flour that I'm using is actually unbleached. I like to use, this is an all-purpose flour, I like to use an unbleached flour. It doesn't matter the brand, but what I look for is unbleached and the protein content. This has got over 13% protein, which is great for bread making. So I have 2 bowls here. Now as opposed to putting 400 grams of flour in each bowl, I only use 350, and I'll tell you why. Because I want to make more of a rustic bread. So in this bread, I only have 350 grams of flour, and here I have 350 grams of flour, white flour. And what I'm going to do, in this one here, we're going to add, I have 50 grams of whole wheat flour. So I'm going to add my 50 grams of whole wheat flour to this one. And to this one, I have 50 grams of rye flour. So I'm going to add my 50 grams of rye flour to that bowl. So now I have 400 grams total and 400 grams total. So I'm going to repeat. You don't need to do that. You could just use 400 grams of white flour and you're good to go. I just so happen to want to make more of a rustic one. And if you want to do the same, then you need at least 350 grams of the white flour plus 50 grams of your other flour. So now that I have my 400 grams total of flour, I need to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So 1.5 teaspoons of salt in each bowl. All right, and I'll just, I'll mix everything together just to kind of whisk it and get it all together. But you're going to see how easy it is to make this sourdough bread. You're not going to believe it. I'm going to actually make a hybrid sourdough bread. So I'm going to add, I've got this quick rise instant yeast. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of this instant yeast because I'm going to make a hybrid today. Now, however, you do not need to add 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. This is optional. Okay, but because I'm making a hybrid today, I'm adding the 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. Next, I need to add my sourdough starter. So here's my starter. I just took it out of the refrigerator, and it's actually time to feed this starter. So typically what you do when you feed your starter, you have to remove some, and if you can't use it, unfortunately you discard it, and then you have to refeed it. Well, I'm going to remove it, of course, but I'm going to use it, which is beautiful. So I know there's about 450 grams of starter here. I'm going to take 200 grams of this yeast starter, sourdough starter. I'm going to take 200 grams out. And you don't have to be that exact, okay? So if you have 210, 205, 190, 195, you're okay. But in fact, I've hit 200. I've got, well, 203. Good enough, okay? So 203 grams of my sourdough starter, okay? And all I'm going to do now is add that to my flour mixture, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing to my other bowl. And I still have a little bit in here, and that's all I need to feed and keep my sourdough starter going. Next, we need to add some water. So I have 320 grams of water. It's warm water. You don't need warm water. It can be room temp, but I just put it in the microwave for 15 seconds, take the chill out, bring it up to about 80 degrees, thereabouts, 80 to 90. So as you can see, I have all my ingredients in here together, and all you got to do with a wooden spoon or a spatula, or you can use your hands. It'll be a little, as Boston says, a little goopy, my grandson. But you just mix it all together, and you want to make sure you've got all the flour incorporated. So you can see here there's still flour on the edge here that's not incorporated. You want everything to be incorporated. So just give it a mix. And that's why I like using the spatula, because you can scrape the edges and really get it just mixed in nicely all together. So this takes about 15 seconds. That's about it. There you have it. It's all incorporated. I'll give it one more stir. Okay, perfect. So now, basically this is done for now. You're going to cover this, and this now has to rest for 12 hours. And because I'm doing 2 loaves of bread and this is whole wheat, I'll just put a W there so that I know that this one is my whole wheat. And now what I have to do is do the same thing to this one. I'm going to label this, so we'll just put an R on this one, so I know that that one is for rye. Okay, so that's it. First step is done. How easy is that? That took us all of less than 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do, we're going to cover these up, and like I said, they're going to sit overnight, and they're going to sit for 12 hours. They could sit up to 14 hours, so you have that window in there, but between 12 and 14 hours, we're going to get to the next step. So right now, like I said, I'm going to have a cup of tea and get ready for bed, and then tomorrow we're going to go into step 2, and step 2 is probably easier than step 1, as you're going to see, so stay tuned. It's been about 12 hours. Let's see how our sourdough is doing. Let's have our big reveal. Oh my, look at that. That's the one with the whole wheat. And this is the one with the rye, and they both look spectacular. Let's just take a better look here. Oh yeah, look at how that has risen. Look at the nice air pockets. It's bubbly. Here's the rye. Beautiful. You can actually see the rye flour. You can smell the sourdough. This is going to make amazing bread. So let's do our rye one first. And what I like to do is before I take it out, I'm going to put a little bit of flour. Just flour your surface, and I'm actually using semolina flour. I like to use semolina flour. It adds more of that rustic, artisan, a little bit of color to it, which is really, really nice. You could use regular white flour, of course. And then you see how it's kind of sticking a bit to the bowl? Just with a spatula, you can just work it and just remove it from the bowl and just let it go onto that floured surface. Okay, there we go. And you want to remove all that dough. Okay, now there's a little bit there, not much. I've got it mostly removed. Very little extra. Okay, now this is going to be very, very sticky. So I'm just going to put a little bit of semolina on my hands, and all you do here now are a few folds. So we're going to take one end. So again, a little bit of semolina. It's really sticky, and fold it over. More semolina on my hands, or flour. Fold that over. Take the side, fold the side over. Take the other side and fold that over. That is enough folds right there, but you could do a couple more if you want. So I've done 6 folds. Let's call it 6 folds. Now what I like to do is try to shape it. So make it into a round. Again, flour on your hands, it's really sticky. And just kind of pull it towards you. And as you pull the dough towards you, what happens is the bottom of the dough is gripping and it's rolling. So what you're doing is you're tightening your dough. So you can do this a few times. And again, it's really, really sticky. And you want that stickiness. Okay, more flour on the hands. Don't be shy with the flour on the hands. All right, that is actually pretty good. I've got it into a nice round shape. Now, from here, it's got to rest for 2 hours. So I'm going to actually let it rest in a proofing bowl. If you do not have a proofing bowl, just get a plastic cutting board and put some flour on the cutting board and put it on your plastic cutting board. But since I have the proofing bowl, I'm going to use it, and I am going to very generously put my semolina flour all around this proofing basket. And that is so it doesn't stick. There we go. So now I'm going to take my dough. Oh yeah, that's really nice. And place it right in the proofing basket. A little bit of flour on top as well. Again, I'm using semolina, whole wheat, durum wheat semolina flour. Okay, this is the rye one. So we're going to cover that up. That now has to rest for 2 hours before it goes in the oven. I just put my little R there as a reminder that that is the rye. So that can just sit in there very nicely. Now we're going to do the same thing. Since I'm making 2 loaves of bread, do the same thing to the whole wheat one. This one is also going to rest for 2 hours. So what that means is, if these are going in the oven in 2 hours, that means in an hour and a half, we're going to preheat the oven. It's been about an hour and a half, and now I remembered to turn my lapel mic on. So let's get the oven preheated. We're going to preheat the oven to 475 degrees. And in the oven, we're going to put in a Dutch oven. Now, all you need is a container with a lid. Very important, a container with a lid to go in your oven, and these Dutch ovens are fantastic. This particular size is 4.7 liters, which is a great size for making a loaf of bread. So I'm going to put 2 of these Dutch ovens in the oven, empty, and not only do I want the oven preheated at 475, but we also want our Dutch ovens preheated at 475. So this one is empty as well. And they're both going to go in. Oh, I still got my pizza stone in there. I'll take that out. Okay. 1 and 2. 475. Preheat we go for 30 minutes. Been about 30 minutes. So let's take a look. This is our wheat. Oh, look at how that has risen. That is gorgeous. So now let's take a look at our rye. I got our R here for our rye. And let's see how that dough is doing. That is also doing well. It looks like the whole wheat one has risen a little bit more than the rye one. Now the rye flour is also heavier and denser. So I was kind of expecting that. Okay, so out come the Dutch ovens. So I'm going to get a couple of hot plates here. This is how I like to do it when I'm making 2 at a time. And we'll get the oven mitts going. Out come the Dutch ovens. These are piping hot, so of course you have to be careful. That goes without saying, even though I said it. Okay, so 1 hot Dutch oven and another hot Dutch oven. So all I'm going to do now is take those doughs and just gently dump them into the Dutch oven. Now, after I dump them in, I'm going to score them with a razor blade. If you don't have a razor blade, this one was a nice little gift from my daughter, actually, daughter and son-in-law. But if you don't have a razor blade, by all means, just use a pair of scissors to snip the tops of the bread. Okay, so first one first, we'll take the whole wheat one. Off goes the lid. And then slowly just kind of try to get it to fall. Oh, that one fell very nicely in the middle. Now I'm going to score this, and since this is the wheat, just for the fun of it, I'm going to score it with the letter W. There we go. Okay. Just for the fun of it, why not? Normally I just put an X or something like that on there. Okay, now this is our rye flour. So again, I'm just going to take it and just kind of gently roll it into. Okay, now it's kind of touching the edge here. I don't really want that. Just move it over a bit. This one's already kind of flattened out a bit. So let's just score that with the letter R. Okay, hey, you got to have some fun too when you're in the kitchen, right? All right, let's put these in the oven. Okay, now 30 minutes. We set the timer for 30 minutes, and you notice the lid is on. We want 30 minutes with the lid on, and then 15 minutes, give or take, with the lid off. But let's let it cook right now for 30 minutes with the lid on. It's been a half an hour. Let's take the lids off now and see what we got. There we go. That's looking really, really good. You can see it's just slightly browned. And then our whole wheat one, that's also looking really, really good, just slightly browned. That goes back in. So now those have to continue to cook for about 15 minutes. And what you can do, depending on your oven, take a look after 10 minutes, 12 minutes, just kind of keep an eye on it. But as a general rule, it needs 15 minutes now with the lid off. I have let it go the full 15 minutes. So let's see what we got. And I like the color on that. However, I like it to be a little darker. I personally like it to be on the cusp of burning. So I'm going to give them another 5 minutes. And that's what I mean about checking the bread. And in fact, stop it when you have the color that you want. But I like that darker color, thicker, crispier, crunchier crust. Time to take another look. You know what? That probably for me could stay in for another couple minutes, but I know that's kind of how Laura likes it. So let's take that out. Can't always be about me. Okay, and there's the whole wheat one. Let's take that one out as well. Okay, this is our rye bread. And if you notice, it doesn't stick because these were so hot when the dough went in, the bread just does not stick. Look at that. That's our rye. And as you can see, it's maybe a little bit flatter. The rye usually comes a little denser. Oh, and that's what I like to see right there. On the cusp of burning, that's what I like. So maybe I did take it out at a good time. And there you can see my letter R. You can see my letter R for rye. Okay, that's my rye one. Put that one down. And then our W isn't so pronounced, but that was the whole wheat one. And if we check out the bottom, same thing, just on the cusp of burning. And that's what I like right there. So this one here is still a little bit dense because of the whole wheat flour, but it has risen a little bit better. Isn't that a gorgeous loaf of bread right there? There we have two gorgeous loaves of bread right there. And let me put my mic a little bit closer here. That to me is the sound of music. You can hear the crackling of the bread as the crust continues to form, and that's why we can't cut these right now. They have to cool down. That crust is still forming and you hear that nice crackling sound. That's absolutely perfect, and as much as you want to cut into these right now, we gotta wait. Let's cut the rye one first. I'm gonna cut this one right up the middle. Oh, that sounded good. And that looks really, really good. We have got some nice air pockets in here. And I mentioned, because I used the rye flour, it's a little bit dense, but not really, really dense. We still have air pockets. We've got a nice crumb, nicely cooked, and a nice crust. Okay, that is our rye bread. Put that one aside. So this one, the whole wheat, what I'm gonna do here, let me cut just an end off because I'm gonna wanna take a sample of this. And you can see here, look at that. Oops, right here. This one is not as dense because the whole wheat flour is not as dense as the rye. And we've got some really, really nice air pockets in there. Again, a nice crumb and a nice crust. Now for the taste test. One of my favorite pieces is, of course, the end right there. And how I really enjoy it is with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil just drizzled on top, just like that. That's how I like to eat my bread. Okay, let's give this one a try. This is the whole wheat one, sourdough whole wheat bread. I'm going to say it's fantastic. We didn't need to use that 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. We could have just used our sourdough starter. Either way, you can't beat it. What a fantastic way to make a loaf of bread using your sourdough starter, and it's so easy. What do? We put our ingredients together. We waited 12 hours, gave it a fold and a shape, waited 2 hours and cooked it. I don't know. Does it get any easier than that for sourdough bread? The benefits and the taste of the sourdough bread. Beautiful fresh bread, so simple to make. It's a pleasure for me to share this recipe that I've developed for simple sourdough bread with you. But if you've been tuning in, you know it would make me even happier. And that is if you make this recipe and you enjoy it as well, because what a great way, so simple, so easy to make sourdough bread. Hope you give it a try. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, buon appetito. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to cut myself another slice.